Hi, I'm Darcel Lobo. I own Dow Law Firm in Normandy Park. I'm an attorney, and today we're going to talk about estate planning and how to simplify estate planning if you own real estate in multiple states. So I'm in Washington State. I'm only licensed to help clients who are Washington State residents. But for many of my clients, aside from having real estate here in Washington, they may also have a second home, an investment property, or a vacation home, or maybe they have like just other property in different states for whatever the reason may be. And, we want to put together a comprehensive estate plan that covers that out-of-state property and really kind of simplifies things for their families. And so whenever I have a client who owns real estate in multiple states, I'm always recommending a revocable living trust for their estate plan. And so why is that? Well, that's because if you own real estate in different states and you have a will, you're likely looking at a probate in every state where you own real estate. So you'd have your probate here in Washington, and then wherever else you have real estate, there's probably going to be a probate there as well. Unless you have like a transfer on death deed or a beneficiary deed for that property in that state, you're looking at multiple probates. And so it's for a lot of my clients who have real estate outside of Washington State, a lot of them have second homes in Arizona, Hawaii, New Mexico is a big one. There's a few states where I just kind of have a number of clients who have second, homes in those states. And so I recommend to them doing a revocable living trust because even though that property is outside of Washington State, we can form their trust here in Washington, put their Washington real estate into that trust, and then we can also get that property in that other state deeded into their Washington revocable living trust. And that way, the revocable living trust includes all of their assets, both inside and outside of Washington State, avoiding the need for probate at all. And so it really kind of simplifies and streamlines the process, saves on cost of having multiple probates in those different states. Or sometimes I'll have clients who maybe they don't own real estate outside of Washington yet, but that is their plan in the future. And if they're trying to decide between a will or a trust, that could be a factor to consider as far as going with the trust, is that if you plan to have real estate outside of Washington in your future, well, then maybe we should just do the trust, now, so you're not having to do it down the road. But keep in mind, if you do a will now, you can always do a revocable living trust later, as long as you have the competency to be able to do so. You can do so later, so you're not, barred from doing so. The will that you make now is not set in stone forever. You can update it or change it as you need to. And if you have a will now and doing a trust down the road makes more sense, then you can do that later. That's fine. But for clients who are just trying to put together their plan now and don't, really want to know that even though we've done this now, they're probably looking at redoing it later as a trust, then maybe we just do the trust now. And so that's a big reason why we look at revocable living trusts for clients if they have real estate both in Washington State, but also outside of Washington State. Now, there's other reasons as well why clients may want a revocable living trust, even if they don't have real estate outside of Washington State. For some of my clients, privacy is really important to them. And with the will option, probate is open, the will gets filed, the will becomes public record. So anyone, when someone's passed away and the will's been filed, anyone can search the court records by their name, the decedent's name, and see what the will said and see who received what and in the probate. So anyone could see how much the assets were and how much the debts were and how much all the heirs inherited. Like that all becomes public record. And for some clients, having that privacy is really important to them. And for some clients, it's not so much, and so it's really, for that perspective, it's really a matter of personal preference. Whether you do a will or a revocable living trust, we're going to reach the same end result. whatever you want the distribution to be, we can do that with either option. It's just a matter of how are we going to get there? What vehicle are we going to use to get to that end result? Are we going to go with the will through probate, or are we going to go the Revocable Living Trust, which avoids probate? And so privacy can be a big one for some of my clients. And then also some clients just don't want to have a court or a judge involved in their final affairs. They don't want that. They don't want their loved ones that they've named in their estate plan to have to deal with that added legal process of going through probate. Now, probate in Washington state is pretty streamlined, and in different states it's a different process, and the costs can be quite significant in different states. I know we're over on the West Coast here with Seattle, so I know like California is a big one where clients want to avoid probate at all costs because of the costs involved in probate and the time and factors like that. I'm not licensed in California, so I've never actually done a probate in California, but I've heard that repeatedly from people who are either from California or just have experience with probates in California that you want to go with a trust if you're in California, but I don't know, that's outside of my scope. I don't practice in California, but here in Washington, probate's pretty streamlined, but for some clients, they just don't want that added step in the process for their, loved ones when it comes time to administer their estate. And so they prefer a trust just to keep it out of probate, to keep, a court out of it. And then again, for the privacy factor and things like that. So those are kind of some of the reasons why a person would want a trust. And if somebody has real estate in multiple states, all the more reason why you may want to consider a trust for your estate plan. So if you need to get your estate plan done, or maybe it's time for some updates, it's been a while since you looked at your will or looked at your trust, maybe some things have changed, maybe there have been some life events of some marriages or births or deaths, and we really need to kind of reevaluate your estate plan, I'd be happy to help you. The number here is 206-408-8158, or you can visit us below at dowlawfirm.com, but I'll have all that below for you. So I hope that was helpful, and have a good day.